The VALA 2022 awards was a very, very tough decision to make. If you haven't seen the results, the winner was the State Library of Queensland with their Saganto Digital Learning Program, but our two runners-up were just so close that we wanted to give them an opportunity to tell their stories about their projects. So from the University of South Australia Library, we have Lachlan and Craig who are presenting on their project, which was creation of a new process using Appian for Uni South Australia researchers to submit non-traditional research outputs for review within academic units and inclusion in the research outputs repository. So at this point, I'll hand over to Lachlan and Craig.
Thank you for the opportunity, and thanks for giving us the commendation. I was really, really thrilled that it had some impact on the assessors. I'll just give a few kind of setup comments around how the project came about and what it was intended to do. And then I'll hand over to Lachlan, who will speak about some of the more, I guess, for your group in particular, the more process and outcomes detail around from the library services point of view. So I'm actually from the UniSA Creative Academic Unit, which is essentially the creative arts faculty within University of South Australia. And this project, which started in 2021, was in my role at the time as Dean of Research. And I'd come from quite a few different university positions where I'd, I guess, overseen the development, growth, and capture of creative research outputs in the universities that I worked. And the key point to make here was that many universities don't. They don't use the same kind of approaches. We have the ERA, so the Excellence in Research for Australia guidelines, which, I mean, that's on pause now, of course, but which were very generic in terms of how, I mean, the process was quite clear, but in terms of what things look like were pretty generic. Every university does things differently. There's no national system for how people process creative research outputs or commission reports as research outputs in universities. And, you know, having worked at various universities and helped other universities to develop committees and processes, everybody does things differently, from, you know, having meetings where people literally bring in piles of papers and outputs and just spreadsheets and just write notes, through to people just emailing each other with things that have been submitted via some kind of repository system of some sort, and people just making their own decisions based on whether they like the abstract or whatever. So we wanted to build a robust, transparent, and user-friendly system for researchers to be guided through the process of submitting their creative or commission reports as research outputs, be guided through the process of how they, you know, what kind of metadata is required, writing research statements. You have to write a 2,000 character research statement to go with a research output, and also all the supporting evidence you might need around peer review or equivalence. So whether that's invitations, commissions, awards, prizes, positive reviews, further iterations of the original work in other venues and outlets, whether it's exhibitions or reprints or having books published in different languages, etc. And so it might sound like, well, it's a lot of work, and it was a lot of work. So we brought together a team of, I think it was 10 people in the end, across academics, the library, our business intelligence group, which kind of runs all the research performance side of things, also our ISTS, so our IT people, and literally built a brand new kind of digital platform in the Appian software for inputting the creative research works, and assigning peer review within the university to assess the work as equivalent to you know, research eligible. And then, of course, from Lachlan's team and through to the discoverability library services side of things. And just before I hand over, I'll just say that we've showcased this at numerous forums, and a lot of universities they're really asking us whether they can pay to use it, which at this stage we can't. We're looking at commercialization maybe, but we've also talked to the Australian Research Council about maybe having a national system of this kind. So I'm really hopeful that through this system that we've built, that universities will truly and finally be able to really celebrate creative researchers and non-traditional researchers in ways that haven't been facilitated in the past. I will now hand over to Lachlan, who will speak to you about, I guess, the underlying processes and systems that drive, well, that maybe drive him crazy for a while, but that drive the system.
Thanks, Craig. I'm just going to share my screen, if I may. Hopefully everyone can see that. So I'm going to take you today through some of the technical aspects of what we did as part of this project, and give you some slides that'll show you an example of how researchers go through this process, and how they manage to get their non-traditional research outputs included within the research outputs monitoring system for the entire university. So our goal with this project was to build a single technical process that could handle all of the steps that we used to do in multiple stages involving multiple forms of communication and multiple systems. So we wanted to be able to handle having a researcher who's produced an output be able to use the process to submit that for consideration. We wanted to be able to do internal review of those outputs. And then we wanted to make sure that all that data could be included within our institutional repository system, the same as any of our other research outputs. So the process for this was a co-design process. It was led by our IT department with cooperation from the library, from our various academic units, particularly Craig's unit of UniSA Creative, and our business intelligence team. Within the university, we were already using the system called Appian, which allows to build custom designed forms and workflows that can transmit information through various steps and can ensure that each step gets followed up with the relevant people who are responsible for each stage of that workflow. So I'll show you a little bit about what that looks like. When a researcher comes in and starts a new submission using our outputs form, they see this screen, which allows them to select whatever medium they have done their particular non-traditional output in. And that covers a lot of different categories, everything from creative artworks, whether that's two-dimensional, three-dimensional, digital, recorded works, live performances, as you can see there, exhibitions, events, things that are being curated, research reports, poetry, novels, feature films. We've had a whole range of things that can be submitted using this form. The categories are determined based upon what was at the time the Excellence in Research for Australia guidelines. Those have been now withdrawn, but they're still useful as a basis for giving us the scope of what we want to cover as a non-traditional output. Once we know what those forms, what form that work has been produced in, the researcher is then able to fill in all of the metadata that is relevant for their particular piece, their particular non-traditional output. And that changes, what they get asked changes depending upon the medium that they've selected. So you can see here an example of what they might see if they've asked to say that they've been done an exhibition or an event. They get asked about what event it was, what the venue was for that. And that's all useful information that we can then include when we come to recording that system in our library management system. The form also allows us to make sure that we are linking the right people who have created the non-traditional output with those staff records that we have here at the university, or student records if they happen to be a student. So the system can recognize anyone who's employed or a student here and can correctly recognize that individual person as a creator, so that when we then finalize the submission for this output, that output gets attached to their permanent record with the university. One important stage of the form while submission is that the submitters are asked to create a research statement which explains the component or the aspects of that output which have a research focus. And that's divided up into several segments, as you can see here: research background, contribution, and significance. And what the form does is it very carefully guides the submitter through the creation of that statement in several ways. We have examples for each of the segments of the statement. You can get more information on what that might look like. We've got a video, as you can see here, that was produced internally to give, as a workshop, to give advice on creating an NTRO research statement. And we have a link that goes out to a help site, which has many more examples of research statements that have been successfully created in the past. So we're trying to make sure that we give as much help in context to the submitter. We also then have the ability for the submitter to attach files that go with that particular output. So we want to be able to see as much as possible what the output is. So we ask them to upload documents which contain either the output itself, if it's digital, or some kind of sample of the work. So if it's a visual artwork or an exhibition, that might be photographs of that work in place. They can also then provide us with supporting evidence. So if they do have evidence of how that particular work has been recognised, they can attach that for consideration by our review system, which is what happens next. So once a researcher has submitted this, they attach their submission to a particular academic unit here at the university. And that academic unit then conducts a peer review of the submission, which assesses whether the output has research quality. So we're looking at it to see what components it has in it that would make it equivalent for someone working in a creative field to, for instance, someone who has written a book or a peer-reviewed journal article. With the goal that things that pass this review process can then be considered within our internal metrics as equivalent to any other research publication. The nominated academic unit chooses 2 staff to assess the output and its research statement, and that is done anonymously to the submitter. So it's blind. From the point of view of the submitter, they don't know who has been chosen to assess their outputs. All of the assessment activity is conducted within Appian. So all of the steps within that, nominating who the reviewers will be, assigning the work to them, they can go in, they can review the entire contents of what was submitted, and they can choose whether that's satisfactory or satisfactory, add comments. They can also send it back to the submitter for further information. And again, that all is continually handled within Appian. So every stage of the process is monitored and we can see what activity has happened within each submission. If there happens to be a tie between the 2 peer reviewers, one has said yes, one has said no. We then have the ability to have a tie break, which goes to the research dean of the relevant unit to decide. And regardless of what the result is, so whether things have been reviewed as being research equivalent or not, everything that completes this process then gets added to our institutional repository. At UniSA, our research repository is a subset of our library management system, and we use Alma from Ex Libris. And all of our records are actually stored as MARC. So this is an example of one that we have had added to our repository from this submission system. The Appian form, once it's been completed, once that peer review has been finalized, it creates this MARC record directly into Alma. There's no human interaction as part of that process. The record gets created by API. It appears more or less instantly in our library management system. We do need to do a little bit of work within the library repository team to do some post-processing and tidying, but because of the way we've designed the form, most of the output into Mark is exactly as we want it to be. So we can do that post-processing within, say, 20 minutes. In the previous system that we had for collecting this kind of outputs, that could have taken days, weeks, or months, because whenever anything needed to be questioned, we had to go back and email the creators of the output to have those questions answered, and they may or may not respond in time. With the new process in place, we're getting all of this information in at the point of need. They can't complete their submissions unless they have put in all of the required information to create this kind of record. We can also then download from Appian any of those content files that were uploaded by the submitter. And we then make sure that that gets added to our repository storage, which is in Alma itself. So that's Alma Digital Storage, for those of you who are familiar with it. And we make sure that that has designated access rights attached. So things that can be shared publicly can be shared openly to everyone. But things that, for whatever reason, have material that is copyright or can't be openly shared are locked down so that they can only be used internally. We also create links to any content, relevant content, which is out on the open web. So for instance, for this record, which was a museum exhibition that we had, we can put in a link through to the exhibition site as it appeared on the web. We then have all of these works. They get displayed as any other research output would, through our research outputs repository interface, which for us is a subset of Primo. And you can see here an example of some of the ones that we've had come through, creative works, and they display in our normal repository search results and can be accessed freely by anyone who is interested. They also then get reported against the various creators' academic records. So everything that's included in our repository gets exported to our business intelligence system, and that gets listed as a completed research output equivalent to a book or a journal article on that particular researcher's record. And this is just an example of how we can display then some of that content within our repository system. So in this case, we've got some visual artworks. We've got a series of images of those artworks, and people who are interested in looking at that can go in and browse this content from our repository system. We can also create DOIs for content on demand if researchers wish, so that they can then have a permanent link to their content that can be referenced and used in future work. And that's it for me on the technical side. The only other thing I was going to note is that we've had 280 outputs successfully complete through the system since we launched, which was November 2021. And that's given us a huge boost in the number of creative and research reports, outputs that we've been able to make public and promote through the university. And we'd be very happy if anyone has any questions.
I might kick off with my question, Lachlan. How well was this new process received by your researchers?
Very well. We put a lot of effort into giving a lot of support. Craig was mostly responsible for that, so he can tell you more about the details of that, but we had training sessions, we had drop-in sessions where we invited researchers from across the university to come have a look at the system, ask any questions they were interested in. We were also in a very pleasing way, we were nominated for, within UniSA, we have an internal awards each year for researchers and research projects, which normally go to projects that have actually been done in terms of research, but there was an award for a team that was supporting research, which we were nominated for, and we won, much to our surprise. So that gave us a little bit of a boost of recognition and publicity across the university that we'd had this process in place, and that's helped us to encourage people to use it even more.
We've got a couple of comments, and then Amy, I'll come across to you. Andrew mentioned, he said, I can see why other universities want access to this. So I'm glad to see that you're trying to get it out a bit more broadly. And Kat said, love the highlighting and focus on creative research this project has enabled. Amy, you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Michelle. I'm interested in the choice of Appian for your backend. It sounds like it was partially a legacy, or that the legacy of that product in your workplace was played a part in its choice. But were there other things out there that you considered to build this part of the backend?
Craig, did you want to?
Yeah, I think it was,
that?
well, look, to be honest, initially it was because of, I guess, what do we already use? What resources do we have? If we wanted to use something else external, like a different software or system, then we would have to pay for it. But it actually worked really well, and it's very intuitive. So yeah, it was, most things are used in the uni via Appian. So look, it's not as beautiful as it might be, to be honest, but it looks good compared to other systems. The question is going to be if we did want to extract it out into some other form that was usable by other people or commercializable. How would that work? We're not sure, but yeah. But we had a great support with the ISTS, they call, so the IT team, they were fantastic. And we also created a series of user guides as well, just to go back to your other question there, Michelle, about uptake. We actually we've got user guides for submitters, for peer reviewers, and also for academic unit professional staff who handle the back end of all this. And like we said, we've done town halls, kind of road shows, demonstrations, and we actually set up a quarterly a kind of non-traditional research outputs advisory group as well, just so we can look at any things that have come up, in any teething problems, any issues, any feedback. So every so often we make little tweaks, and again, that's why having Appian and being the system we use is really good, because we can then go to our team and say, this little thing's come up, can you fix it? And then within usually 7 minutes, it's done, which is really good.
One advantage of using the system that's already widely used here is that people are familiar with the environment. So we didn't have to spend a lot of time educating academic staff on how to use a new kind of system. It was a system and an environment that they were already familiar with using for other purposes. And that's a strong incentive to save everyone a lot of time.
Jen has said, great project. I assume the insistence on files rather than links is to make sure the material is always accessible and archivable.
Absolutely.
I think that's a definitive answer. And then Kat has asked also, are these NTROs able to be harvested by services like Google Scholar?
Not yet. It's something we would really like to have happen. That's a limitation of our particular library management system and discovery service, which does not currently support harvesting by Google Scholar. If it's something that's developed in the future, it's something that we would definitely jump on.
And that's something that ARC is really thinking about as well in terms of future iterations of ERA. What can these data scraping systems pick up? So for example, DOIs, this is one thing where that is useful, because it can pick up at least I guess the name and the what it is. I don't know the full details, but I know that the ERA transition working group have been doing some testing with various providers around citation-based data-based research excellence, which might not necessarily work for this, but apparently with things with DOIs, NTROs were picked up by these test systems. Obviously, they can't evaluate impact factors or anything, but at this stage, but it will be good to think about how we could, as Lachlan says, just kind of move things along so that these things could be picked up in various ways, and then somehow maybe AI could do that. I don't know. I'm not even sure.
You mentioned DOIs, which leads into Amy's next question, which was, will a future implementation include automatic DOI minting for all records?
Probably not. Not everything needs a DOI, and there are good reasons to have some manual oversight of what actually can be given a DOI. So we really only want to mint a DOI when we can actually give full access to the output itself. And in some cases, we don't have the rights to do that. We can't share the output publicly. However, the DOI minting application that we have is very easy. It's a one click of a button to mint.
Nice.
So once we've done that initial assessment to say, yes, this is perfectly fine to mint the DOI, one click and it's there.
And that's it for the questions. So Lachlan and Craig, thank you so much for your very, very interesting, especially for a public librarian who knows nothing about this sort of stuff, presentation.
Thanks for the opportunity.
Thank you very much.
You are more than welcome. Let me just... Okay, so Joe and Janelle, we have you both on board. Beautiful, thank you. Let me just do your quick introductions. So Geelong Regional Library Corporation was one of our other VALA Award nominees, and again, a very, very close call. And I must say I was thrilled to see a public library in the award nominations, and I am really looking forward to hearing about their project, which is Saving Family Stories, Photo and Video Digitisation. So handing over to you.
Hello, everyone. Good evening. It's an absolute honour to be here this evening, and what inspiring company we're in. I'm Jo, an Information Services Librarian based at Belmont Library. It's part of the Geelong Regional Library Corporation, or GRLC as we'll call it going forward, and here to share something of our Saving Family Stories Photo and Digitisation project. I'm just going to share the old screen here. Let's see where that is. Oh, try again. There it is. Okay. Now I'm having a bit of a struggle here because I've got stop share and I've got this going on. I'm not really sure what's going on here. Sorry, guys. I'll just try again.
It's a tech event. Of course we're going to have tech issues.
Yes, I've had terrible moments of tech issues actually, because my microphone didn't work either.
Oh,
as
no.
Well.
That's rough.
Okay. Oh my goodness. Let's have a look. I've just still got, I don't know if anyone can jump in and give me a hand here, but I've actually just got a thing saying, where is it? Your screen sharing is paused.
Hang on a tick.
I'm not sure why that is. Hopefully. Not really sure what's going on there. Sorry, everybody. I didn't want to hold you up here.
I can't see any settings that are causing any issue from this end.
Yeah, no, they can.
Is it worth trying to make co-host, and then that might give some more privileges or something?
Yeah, hang on a tick.
Cool.
Let's do that. And then, yep, try it again, Joe, because we've made you co-host.
Good-o. Here we go. I'm feeling good about this, people. No, I'm still
We're going to have, you'll just have to read the slides to us,
will.
Joe.
I will. Oh my goodness me. This is terrible, isn't it? You're just going to have to put up with my head. I'm sorry to say. Now, we could talk for hours about this project, but we won't. I'm just going to give you a quick potted history of the project, a look at the equipment, well, not a look, but a verbal description, and an overview of this impact the project has had on our library community. So we know everyone has family stories to tell, children's first words, first steps, holidays that went terribly wrong or terribly right, and beloved relatives and friends that are larger than life with bigger than Ben-Hur personalities. Photos and videos of these are the visual reminders of these moments. They're the catalyst for shared family legends that are told and retold. They tell us who and what was important at certain stages of our lives, and they're reminders of how much we've changed. Now, I think I've got Janelle on the screen here. Yes. Janelle, if you want to go with from current slide. Oh, I love your work, Janelle. See, this is why she's our library a library coordinator, because she just jumps in like this. There we are. Yay, from current slide, and then go into the next one, Janelle. And the next one. Now, if these stories that we've just talked about there are captured on video or on photo negatives or slides, they might not have been seen for decades, and perhaps the equipment to view these items isn't available anymore. The items themselves are fading or degrading, and the stories that they tell may be lost. So recognising an interest in our local community around family stories and history, and a gap in the technology to support this interest. Next slide, we at GRLC propose the establishment of a photo and video digitisation station as a way of preserving the visual stories of our community. And this is our Saving Family Stories project. It launched in July last year and continues to be a successful and well-utilised resource, which has brought many benefits to our community, and it's just plain awesome to be a part of. And next slide. So let me tell you the brief story of the development of this project. In 2019, Janelle set me a challenge. Janelle, tell us what that challenge was. Oh, you have to go back.
Sorry,
there,
didn't unmute myself. Here we go. Okay, so the challenge for Jo was to research and find some technology that was innovative, that would be used regularly, would be an ongoing success and resonated with our customer base at Belmont Library. We tried lots of other technology, but we wanted something that continued to be useful and continued to be really well used.
Yeah. So in the course of my research, I saw in Insight magazine, the ALIA industry mag, a story on the photo and video digitisation station in a library service up in Queensland and how successful it had been. And I thought, that's something that could really go well here in Geelong. And I would like to acknowledge the Sunshine Coast Libraries and the Brisbane City Libraries for their pioneering work in this field and for their support. Of course, we also considered our customer base at Geelong. We've got many local history groups throughout our area, and they're very active in the community. And we also see many retired people in our libraries who might finally have time to tackle that mammoth task of digitising their family photos, but they may not have the technical skills, equipment, or finances for such a project. And we have many customers interested in family history, and they attend regular attendees at a range of our heritage sessions like Introduction to Ancestry Library Edition. So, and sneakily, it offered an excellent opportunity to develop people's functional digital literacy skills via the medium of working on a project of personal interest. So, yep, photo and video digitisation could be just the ticket for meeting a customer need and supporting digital literacy. But then a certain pandemic put everything on hold for us for a while. However, last year, we were able to get the project up and running, and it was action stations, getting familiar with the equipment, staff training, writing instructions, and as Lachlan and Craig said before, testing instructions, rewriting instructions, working on a launch, doing user guides, setting up procedures and workflows, website information, online booking forms. Oh my. There were so many things to take into account, and I'd just like to say how rewarding it was to collaborate with, oh, Janelle, you better go back a few slides there. Thanks. Yeah, skipping ahead, and have the support of so many different departments across the GRLC, the executive leadership team, IT, marketing, branch staff. It was such a group effort to do, and it was really rewarding. Janelle, from a managerial and operational point of view, what were some of the considerations that you wanted to raise that you wanted to mention tonight?
I think it was really important. I saw my role as the library coordinator to contribute to the project's success by supporting Jo. Basically, Jo came up with a fabulous idea, but she needed a lot of time to be able to research and set up the project, really make sure that everything was done so that we knew that it was going to be a success. Jo and I had lots of check-ins, ad hoc conversations, trying to, discuss what we thought might work, what might make it better, anything else that we thought we could contribute to the success factors for the project. Of course, there was a lot of staff training within the Belmont team that needed a lot of support, and trying to encourage the team to have that sense of experimentation and exploration, but it wasn't going to be perfect from the get-go, but we would all learn together, basically. And also part of my role was really making sure that the senior managers across GRLC were aware of this project and were also advocating for it as well. Lots and lots of people have been involved in making this a success across GRLC.
Indeed. And on the 27th of July, the Saving Families Stories project launched at a special event. There's a photo from it. That's me with our GRLC CEO, Vanessa Schoenikow, and Beth King from King's Funerals, which I'll get to shortly. So let's have a look at the tech, see what we've got. You've had a sneak preview already, haven't you, where we've just gone ahead with the slide. But next slide there. At our digitisation station, this is what you'll find, the Epson Perfection V600 scanner, and it produces high quality images of photos, slides and photo negatives, and that's attached to just a desktop PC. And this particular scanning equipment was selected because it's so reliable, it's easy to use, quality results is just spot on, and it has not let us down in those departments at all after a year of solid use. Like nearly every day it's getting used, it's getting quite a workout, and it's coming up trumps. The Epson scanner, it's set up, ready to go with a basic default scanning setting in place. We decided on that early on in the piece. That means it's user-friendly for most customers. It's very much a quick start experience, ensuring ease of use and successful high-quality scanning results. But there's also some flexibility for customers with more experience with computers, and particularly those who are interested in photography and want to do a little bit more work on that or restoring their images. And they can choose to operate the equipment and using the professional scanning modes available. And next slide. But there's more. We also have the Elgato video capture software connected to a VHS DVD player, which are quite hard to source. Luckily, ours were donated to the library. We've got two. It has an easy to use on-screen walkthrough guide, and we've got a second station available purely just for video digitisation. Our two stations are available Monday to Saturday, bookable 2-hour slots. So if you're coming down Belmont Way, down the Princess Highway, pop in and you can come in and use it. Now, if you'd like more details about those, I've got a QR code at the end of the presentation, and you can scan that for a link to those details. But while our project was in its initial phase, our CEO, Vanessa, developed a partnership. We'll just go back a slide there, but Janelle,
Yeah,
sorry.
it keeps jumping on me.
That's weird, isn't it? Thank you. It developed a partnership with local business, King's Funerals, which enabled us to expand the original concept of our photo digitisation, and their generous sponsorship enabled us to procure a set of 10 of these nifty numbers, Kodak mobile film scanners, which our library members can borrow and have use at home. Now, it's essentially, as you can guess, a mini light box, which scans and saves slides and negatives to your smartphone, and you can instantly share images to social media, email or text. And that's that immediacy of being able to share something that's a real appeal for this. These have proven to be enormously popular with our library members. They're in constant circulation, and they're the first set of items in GRLC's newly established Library of Things. We've also got a set of thermal imaging cameras, and we're looking to expand that offering throughout the next few years with a bit of luck. But to support our community, customers' use of the equipment, we offer twice monthly, sorry, Janelle's just got to go back to slide again, sorry, hour-long introductory sessions, which give people an overview of the equipment and how to book it, some hands-on experience and a chance to share with others in a small welcoming group, if they wish to, something of the stories behind their photos and videos. And it's been in these sessions that some of the most wonderful moments of social connection have occurred. People subsequently coming into the branch to use the equipment, they get a brief staff orientation and are provided with a detailed instruction guide with step-by-step screenshots, every single thing circled and highlighted so they cannot go wrong, to support them. And the beauty of those instruction guides too is that it supports our staff as well to be able to use the equipment and help our customers get through. And the next thing, I think we've got another next slide. Yeah, our customers can also access our how-to online videos via the GRLC YouTube channel, and people can watch those at their own pace at home before they arrive. A page on the GRLC website provides information, FAQs, as well as an online booking form. So we really encourage our customers to be as self-sufficient as possible, but we also provide support to encourage a wide range of customers with varying levels of digital skills to use the equipment. And we do get a varying level of people with digital skills. And our next slide is, so just briefly, I'll reflect on our objectives for this project. Essentially, we intended to provide opportunities for our community to develop functional digital literacy skills while working on a project of personal interest and meaning to them. We wanted to provide equipment and support for customers to digitally preserve and share their photos and videos. And we wanted to strengthen the position of GRLC as a library which offers services which are of value and interest to our community. And of course, as we do with public libraries, we want to attract more members to the library too. So how have we gone? Next slide. Well, let me briefly share some of the benefits that this equipment has brought to our customers. Firstly, increased digital literacy. People are coming to use the scanner who may not have much experience in using computers. However, in learning how to digitize their photos, they're also learning how to use a mouse, how to manage folders, how to navigate software and pop-up windows. These are all skills that, for those of us who use computers on the daily, we pretty much take for granted, but they can be challenging and confusing for newbies. And it's also highlighting the value of digital literacy. People who otherwise may have felt unsure or reluctant to learn new technologies, like, oh no, I'm past that, it's not for me, that's for the young ones. They're actually motivated to give it a try, as the outcome to share and save images is a really high personal value. And one of my favourite comments was from a regular user, Dan. Now that's not Dan, that's Ian. I couldn't get a photo of Dan. He's extraordinarily elusive. He's quite a character, Dan. But he said last year to me, he said, last year, I barely knew how to turn on a computer. Now look at me. I'm scanning photos. I'm emailing. I'm making iMovies. A whole new world has opened up to me. And he is just thrilled. He's one of our biggest advocates, actually. We can't get him to shut up about it, can we, Janelle? He's great value. Next slide. And our connection, the connection that comes through is also extraordinarily strong and so heartening to see. After a number of years of face-to-face interaction, it's been very limited. The ability to talk in person with others is bringing a lot of joy and social connection to users of the equipment. And as I mentioned before, in running our small groups introductory sessions, the highlight has undoubtedly been the informal and spontaneous sharing of scanned photos and the accompanying stories that go with them. And some of them are a real hoot. There's been tears and laughter, mostly about the fashions that people are seeing on the screen, and questions and support in a group of people and who've only just met, really. So we have at times had to leave a box of tissues at the station to account for the tears. They're mostly tears of joy, but yeah, we have had some tissues going on there. But we're also looking ahead to see what programs we can offer which springboard off photo digitisation and connect to learning more about other technologies. We've got a variety of sessions to support the project that we've run. What is the cloud? How to use Google Photos, digital storytelling with iMovie on your iPad. And we're also investigating audio recording to complement the photo digitisation, as the stories people tell when they see their images are just priceless. The risk, of course, is that once photos are digitised, they potentially end up on a forgotten USB in a desk drawer somewhere. So extending our program offerings around creating and sharing stories with customers' digitised photos will hopefully mean that's less likely to occur and they're actually going to do something with those photos. So for us, it's all about the experience that customers have when they use the equipment, the pure delight of seeing a faded slide featuring people long gone, restored to a full colour image, the excitement of learning to use a new technology successfully. It's also the connection people feel when they're using the equipment, their past, their families, to other library users and staff as they share their digitised memories. It's a sort of equipment that many people would like to have, but the cost of which can be prohibitive, to say nothing of the time required to set up the equipment in the first place and learn to use it. So we supply the equipment and the support to get started, and the users go for it. And our last slide ends with Karen, who is an absolute champion of it as well. Love this photo of her. There's nothing like seeing the delight and quiet pride in our customers' faces as they gain confidence and develop their digital competence while using the digitisation equipment. But the social connectivity and that sense of belonging that occurs when people share their images with others and tell their family stories has been the most heartwarming benefit for our library community. And our last slide here, there's a little QR code if you want to give that a snap or a scan. That links to our website with all the information, and there's my email address if you've got any questions as well. Thank you so much, everybody, for the opportunity to share what's been a really rewarding and valuable project for our library customers. Been great to be here. Are there any questions? And thanks for putting up with the tech situations as well.
We've got a couple of comments already, Joe, so I'll start with those. From Rita, great initiative, Joe and Janelle. Wish our local Yarra Plenty Regional Library has this service as well, so we don't have to use office scanners to scan our family old photos.
Absolutely.
And Amy said, I love the sneaky digital literacy education and the engagement with local history groups. Well done, great project.
Oh, thanks for that. Guys.
Jenny also said, fantastic project, Joe. And Amy's then asked, do any scans or recordings get fed through to local history groups?
Oh yeah, that's definitely something that we want to work on. There's quite a few local history groups who've come to digitise, and that's some of the initial ones that came through. There's a Port Arlington group. They came and they digitised a 1980s parade. I think it was Australia Day parade, and it was just fascinating to see. So they're very keen to come in and use it. So yeah, we want to engage a lot more with those people and somehow work out a way to if not catalogue it, but somehow record that so that other people can access that. That's something that, you know, as we're moving forward now, we've established it. That's something we want to investigate for sure.
My question is about the relationship with King's Funeral Homes. Libraries are really being encouraged, highly encouraged to seek partnerships and sponsorships for projects, and that was just a match made in heaven in a lot of respects. So how did that come about?
Yeah, Janelle, did you want to talk about that one? Or
that was really Vanessa Schoenekau, our CEO, was already in discussions with various people, and King's Funerals was one of them, and this just, like you said, fitted beautifully with them. So really it's down to our CEO networking that came about.
She's a go-getter, and she was it was amazing too how quickly it sprang into fruition, really. So it was a really good fit. They've been terrific support in terms of the equipment that they've provided, and there's ongoing meetings and things going on with those.
Yeah, it was, I think it's a 3-year commitment, so therefore it's not just the initial stage of it, but it's ongoing, which is really beneficial to us as well and to them.
I don't know if anybody else realises, but there's a few other public libraries that are interested in going out with the project, but the biggest challenge is finding video players, video recorders to actually do the playback, because they're not made anymore.
No,
so
we were very lucky they were donated, those two,
The issue you get to eventually is, you know, that's going to break down, and then what happens?
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we're thinking, right, okay, that's one of the reasons why, and the impetus really to digitise things, or to at least to put them in another format that's going to last a little bit longer.
Yeah,
it's always the ongoing issue too, because we often talk about that as well. Okay, well, what happens now? We've digitised these. What's the next thing? That's going to eventually become obsolete. It's just this rolling kind of situation.
Format shift.
Yeah, format shift. Thank you. I'll write that down. I love it. Yeah, it's very it is a really tricky one, but I think one of the things that a lot of people are enjoying is that sharing of stories and being able to create something with that, turning those that digitized format into something else, whether it's another like a little iMovie, and they're sharing it with their grandchildren at Christmas, and their grandchildren are just thrilled that Nana can make an iMovie with them in it. There's so many fantastic stories like that, and you know, there's somebody who's learning how to use an iPad, swiping, tapping and holding, tapping and dropping, all those sort of little things that people want to learn to use, but you know, unless they've got an impetus to do it, often not bother.
Andrew's just got very sneaky and said, I've got some and you can't have them. That's the video players. Because he needs them for the same reason.
Yep, we're doing exactly the same thing, and I need them.
Yep, fair enough. Fair enough. We'll keep trolling, and there'll be public libraries will keep trolling and try and find, you know, somewhere out there, just to, because the videos are out there. So yes. And Gareth also said, fortunately, our museum was getting rid of some from their education collection. So
that was a pickup. Yeah, well done.
We're very well done.
I've just got another question, Michelle, if that's all right.
Yep.
It's leading on from Amy's around does it get fed through to local histories? So I know that Geelong, you have a heritage centre that's part of your bigger concept. Is there any sort of mechanism or way for people, say Dan was, I don't know, the Cats mascot for 20 years and he had all these crazy Cats material that could go into the heritage centre? That'd be the kind of appropriate things I'm looking for. Do you have some sort of system where people can opt in to be like, yeah, I'd love to share this with the heritage centre?
That's a fascinating question. Janelle, have you got any of the information on that one? Because heritage has its own management, but we do have some ongoing, we're starting to have ongoing meetings between those departments, because we can see that there's a crossover there for sure. And there is a lot of digitisation going on in the Heritage Centre of various resources. Chanel, do you have anything to add to that one? I haven't really.
I think it's definitely something to explore. Hey, Kat. Hello. I enjoyed working with you back in the day. It's great. So yeah, I think there's lots of opportunities of where this can go, and that's definitely one of them. There would have to be things that would get worked out, because I mean, I know I had a customer the other day that had photos of her and her sister as a child, and they were in Sydney, and in the background it was building the Opera House.
Oh, wow.
So you know, it's things like that. There's so much gold in some of the shots that people are scanning. Yeah, so there's all sorts of things there that it would be nice to capture and have other people have access to, but then they're also people's personal slides. So yeah, it just depends on how we progress with it, but it's definitely something to explore.
And then would you connect that to like the state libraries collections that they pull together? There you go. I'll go big for you. Go blue skies.
Go hard.
Maybe.
I can give you an example of another local history project. We've actually got a local history archive at my library service, and our local history librarian got very inspired, and she's running a landscapes photography competition at the moment to gather photos of the area as it is now, because that's going to be future local history.
Yeah.
So she's going to have content already, which will show what it was like in the past. And so she's getting the community to help us to create the local history content of the future.
And imagine, Michelle, if she did like a QR code that's stuck on lampposts or something in the area that you could walk past, and then I'll pop all the images that people have been collecting.
Yeah.
So I like that. I like that. That's like, you know, when you go to Torquay in the Surf Coast, you take the little share all the photos. Yeah, we could do something like that, Jo. Jo's jotting all this down, I can see. So yeah, keep up with any other great ideas. Keep going.
That sounds fantastic. So ladies, thank you very, very much for that talk. As somebody who works in public libraries, I was very excited to hear about that, and hopefully my library service will be able to do something about it if we can get a hold of the darn equipment. But that was great. And it wasn't just about the equipment, but the digital literacy learning, the partnerships. There's just so much to the project that was really recommended. So thank you for your presentation, and congratulations on your award. We will be getting you a certificate at some stage. My apologies. So thank you again for your presentation. It's really sincerely appreciated, and also to Lachlan and Craig for theirs as well. Sarah, did you want to say any last words before we finish?
Just thank you to everyone that turned up. We really do appreciate it, and hope you have a lovely night. We finished a little bit early, so you get your night back. So thank you so much, and hopefully see you soon at our next event.